Hi, everybody. I just wanted to give you a quick review over the DBQ. There was a couple of students just asking me to do a quick refresher video of what is expected in a DBQ. So remember, a DBQ is just like a normal essay. However, instead of bringing up a lot of your own evidence in each body paragraph, you are using the documents provided to you. So again, it's an essay. It still should have organization. It still should be answering the prompt or the question. It still should have evidence, but instead of you figuring out random pieces of evidence on your own, you are required to use the documents. Every document given fits the question. There shouldn't be any documents that are just weird and random. You may not understand a document, you may not want to use one, but every single document does answer the question. So the quick outline is what you're looking at right now. You want to make sure you still have 5 paragraphs if possible. If you only finish 3 or 4 in the time given, that's fine too. But if you have time, which you do, since I'm giving you multiple days to do this, you can shoot to do 5 full paragraphs. I am warning you though, these are bigger paragraphs. Since you are not just listing evidence, and since you are using documents, these paragraphs turn into huge paragraphs. So if your paragraphs look small, if you have 3 sentences or 4 sentences in a paragraph, odds are you're not doing enough with the document. So this is a normal essay, but they will be bigger paragraphs. Okay? Your first paragraph will look the same though. It's an introduction paragraph. You start off with some historical context, some background information on the topic or the time period. Keep it short, sweet, 2 to 3 sentences max, maybe 4 if you really need it. But you're just giving the reader a glimpse into this topic. Because I'm filming this video during the 19th Amendment DBQ, in this case, it'd be great to start your essay off with the time period. What's the progressive era? This is happening during the progressive era. So what's a little just introduction of the time period? Maybe you'd rather do an introduction about women's rights in general, how women's rights movements have been growing, what they are fighting for. Maybe you want to do some background on that. Maybe you just want to do background on voting rights. That's fine too. Maybe you just want to do a couple sentences on who's been given voting rights and when. That would still be appropriate. The idea here is that you're giving some background information. It should not be the exact same information as your essay, but you're setting up the topic and you're setting up the time period. Then you dig into your thesis statement, which you've already planned out. You should hopefully have it checked by me already, but the thesis, of course, answers the question fully. You have 3 thesis points or 2 thesis points. You've planned out how you're going to organize your documents, which ones you want to source. You've done all of that in your thesis preparation. Then, for each body paragraph, it starts off with a typical topic sentence like normal. It matches your thesis, it addresses the prompt. It could even restate the prompt and introduce your first point. Then you dip into the evidence portion, which is now explaining the documents. So again, depending on if you're just using a document or if you're sourcing a document, you are using the documents as evidence to prove your point. You might want to start off formally, like in her letter to the Speaker of the House, the leader of NASA, Miss Cat explains. You've given some sourcing information, you've given some information at the top, and now you're going to explain what the document is talking about. Remember, you don't have to quote, and it's actually encouraged not to quote, just so that you can just paraphrase the meaning of these documents. If you desperately need to quote something, you can, but it's not required. As you are adding in reasoning, which is of course the last part of any good body paragraph, it's connecting your document evidence to the original question. So you have your topic sentence, you have your information about the document, but how do those two fit? How does that show a similarity? How does that show a difference in their method. So again, adding your reasoning is really important. It connects the document analysis to the actual topic that you're supposed to be writing about. Then there's the conclusion. Don't stress about this. It's just restating the thesis in your own words. There's no points to be earned really in the conclusion, so you do not have to worry. If you don't even get to it, that's fine. But since you have time, add a little ending to your essay. Okay, try to use all the documents. There's 7. If you really don't want to use one, then use 6. So again, try to use all, but if you really can't use one, use 6. You get 1 point on the rubric for using and explaining 3. Then you get the second point for using and explaining 3 more. So you get 2 points if you use 6 documents. Then you can even earn more points by sourcing a document. In order to correctly source a document, you must do the following. You have to explain the historical context. What is the historical background of that document? How is it relevant to the argument? Explain how or why the document's point of view is relevant to the argument. So who is talking, who is writing, who's in the picture, how is that relevant to your argument, your topic? Is there an audience? Can you figure out who the audience is and why it's important to the topic? So again, mentioning historical context, point of view, and audience could earn you extra points with the documents. You're going above and beyond. So they actually only want you to do this for 3, but that's a lot. And this is what's going to make your paragraphs look huge because you're trying to add historical context around the document. You're trying to add point of view. You're trying to add audience. This is what's going to make your paragraphs large. How to pick the right documents. I think the most sourceable documents are the ones where maybe you already know the author. Maybe you already recognize the source. Maybe it's a really easy document. Yeah. So pick the easiest ones that would be easy to talk about historical context, point of view, and audience. Okay, I wanted to end off this video with just a really practical example of a body paragraph. I had to cut it down just a little bit, so I could have gone even more in depth in all of this. But here's an example of a body paragraph that answers the question. In this body paragraph, I source one document and I just use another document. It's not on the 19th Amendment like when I'm recording this video. This is a topic we talked about in semester 1. Was the Reconstruction era a success or failure? The time period after the Civil War. Imagine this is a body paragraph. The most immense failure of the Reconstruction era was the approval and creation of black codes. So clearly I'm arguing failure, and I guess black codes was somewhere in my thesis. In Louisiana, black codes were created to limit the movement of newly freed black Americans. They started to arise shortly after the Civil War in the 1860s. These black codes would contain laws that stated that black Americans needed permission before leaving town. The authors of these black codes intended to control black Americans and restrict their newly given civil rights. This highlights a major failure for the Reconstruction era. While the 14th Amendment grants citizenship, clearly it was not fully being exercised in states in the South. One of the goals of Reconstruction was to peacefully integrate newly freed black Americans into society, and this was not occurring in many Southern states. My first sentence is my topic sentence. This is restating the prompt, introducing my argument, which is failure, and introducing my first point, which is black codes. In yellow, I am sourcing a document. I am providing historical context specifically for that document. This document must have been a list of black codes that were from Louisiana. So I mention when or where these are occurring, Louisiana. I mention when these black codes are happening. I mention what these black codes are. That's where I put my citing, document 3. I mention the author's point of view or maybe the author's purpose. and I guess kind of the audience with who the black codes were written for. And then I talk about just how this highlights a major failure. All of the yellow is sourcing. This is going deeper, historical context, purpose, point of view, audience. This is what you need to do for 3 documents. For 3 other documents, you can just simply use them like I do in purple or pink, whatever color that is. While the 14th Amendment grants citizenship, boom. I guess the document 1 must have just been the 14th Amendment. So while the 14th Amendment grants citizenship, document 1, clearly it was not being fully exercised in states in the South. So again, still connected to my argument, but I just used it pretty quickly. That earns me the point for using a document. Yellow earns me a point for sourcing. And lastly, a kind of a reasoning, like a summarizing, reasoning, connecting it back to my argument. One of the goals of Reconstruction was to peacefully integrate newly freed Black Americans into society, and this was not occurring in many Southern states. So again, reasoning to just nicely end off the paragraph. If I would have ended it off with just the purple, it wouldn't have been fully complete. It would have been lacking something. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a body paragraph. This is an example. Yours might be longer. Yours might be more wordy. But I don't think you can do it much shorter than this. This is probably the shortest example. How many even sentences is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think this is the shortest you can get it in a DBQ essay. Okay, guys, hopefully that video helped. Good luck. You guys are amazing. Email me if you have any questions.